Privacy, security, Constitution. There's a new controversy brewing in the law enforcement world over the use of a device known as a stingray. A stingray is used to locate a mobile phone when that mobile phone is not being used to make a call. Authorities are now using the technology to track the location of somebody, often without a search warrant. So reports the Wall Street Journal, which, as I mentioned, is owned by the parent company of this network. With us now, the host of Freedom Watch on Fox Business and the Fox News, senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. So now they're tracking our phones using a stingray.
Well, the same Justice Department that the Wall Street Journal just revealed is tracking you where you go without a search warrant on the basis of a phone you're not using. Also revealed to the Supreme Court last month that it is placing GPS devices in the automobiles of people who don't have phones in their cars, so they can track them in their cars. So the big picture is, where is their respect for the Constitution? The Justice Department will argue there's no expectation of privacy. All we're doing is using technology. We can use it to save lives. I would argue that the Constitution says if you want to get inside of someone's phone, you have to get a search warrant. That's the functional equivalent of getting inside their home, inside their papers, inside their computer. The Justice Department disagrees. The case is being litigated before a federal judge in Arizona as we speak. But the Wall Street Journal revealed this morning that this is being done to large numbers of people without search warrants. The one in Arizona is the only one we know about, and the only one that's before a federal judge.
Doing this to all these people to what end?
Well, the Justice Department won't say, because if they don't prosecute you, if they don't find anything wrong, then there's nothing to prosecute you for. You'll never know that they've been tracking you. The only way the guy in Arizona knows about it is because they found evidence, which they're now using in a case against him for income tax evasion. It's nothing to do with terrorism. It's an income tax evasion case which they stumbled upon while they were following him and trying to figure out where he was, looking for some other issue.
But they can't do that, Judge.
They can do it if they disregard the Constitution. Look, we have serious problems if the Constitution is disregarded. No one in America wants to live in a country where the government is unrestrained. Power, by its nature, expands. The whole purpose of the Constitution is to keep the government within the confines of the document, to force it to respect our rights no matter what it says about us. If the government can transgress the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, then the government can do anything.
But since 9/11, and arguably with some instances before, but especially since 9/11, it's what they do.
They do.
I mean, you can't argue that. It's just a fact. It's what they do.
Societally, people do not regard the right to privacy the way the founders did and the way we all did before 9/11. They have given up the ghost on the right to privacy and have basically let the government transgress privacy. This will
to their peril?
To their peril. This will be very bad when people in the government use it to harm their political opponents. And, of course, that's happened in the past as well.
And you would anticipate that will happen again. I mean, you can't have something like that and not use it.
The founders didn't trust this kind of power in the hands of the executive branch of the government. They forced them to run this power past a federal judge, so the federal judge, neutral, could say yes or no. When they do this without getting a search warrant, they cut out the judiciary, and they're making these decisions on their own without the filter of a federal judge. The founders trusted federal judges to filter this stuff, let them do it properly and lawfully. The government doesn't want to do that. And the Wall Street Journal, to their credit, discovered this and revealed it on the front page this morning, and it's been going on for years.
Thank you, Brian. The Celente scandal widens today after news that two of the company's top executives are taking the fifth now on Capitol Hill. So, what do they have to hide, or is this just standard protocol?
Fox News senior judicial analyst and host of Freedom Watch over on the Business Channel joins us live. When people hear, oh, those guys are going to take the fifth, you figure they got something to hide. But if you were their attorney, what would you tell them to do?
I would advise them to invoke their right to remain silent. But I agree with you, Steve. It looks bad.
Smells
on
bad.
Television and in the media, especially when the government's involved, especially when tax dollars are involved, for people to say, I'm not going to answer the question because my Fifth Amendment right allows me to remain silent. A couple of basics. The FBI raided their business last week. The FBI has
got the goods.
Right, but the FBI has yet to even tell them what they took. So they don't know what the FBI has. They don't know what charges, if any, might be filed against them, criminal or civil. So the standard operating procedure is to tell them, don't say anything.
Yeah, but they do know in their own heart if they actually did something wrong. I mean, I know that doesn't change anything, but they know. I guess one of the allegations might be that they knew that their business was going under and they didn't provide the correct financial data, even to the government, in an attempt to get that loan.
That's a very good analysis of what the problem might be. But if they were my clients and no charges had been filed against them yet, I would tell them to remain silent.
Right.
That's the legal advice. This is a hotbed political issue as well. These people took $500 million of taxpayer dollars and wasted it.
Right.
And government bureaucrats allowed them to do that. And the Congress has every right to know, and the people have every right to know how they got that $500 million. That's the second half of this story.
Sure. So the CEO and the CFO later today are going to take the fifth. I can't say anything. But you were just talking about those government bureaucrats. They have their side of the story. If they were asked to show up, they can't take the fifth.
That's correct. There are at least 3 bureaucrats from the Department of Energy who sat in on board meetings of Celente, the government physically present while executive decisions are being made. Congressman Stearns and Congressman Issa can subpoena those people. They do not have a Fifth Amendment protection. They will have to answer questions. If they refuse to answer, then the heat on the White House is almost unbearable.
Oh, very interesting. We'll have to see how it all pans out.
New York City's police department could take down an airplane that threatens the city. That from Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, who is revealing brand new information about the city's massive counterterrorism operation. Listen.
Do you mean to say that the NYPD has the means to take down an aircraft?
Yes, I'd prefer not to get into the details, but obviously this would be in a very extreme situation.
You have the equipment and the training?
Yes.
That's from his interview with CBS's 60 Minutes. Commissioner Kelly also detailed other security measures cops use to secure the most vulnerable areas, like radiation detectors and a network of surveillance cameras. He says New York City is the #1 target in the country, and he says he knows he can't rely on the feds alone to protect it. With us now, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's the anchor of Freedom Watch on the Fox Business Network. He's also on the 5 every so often. And, Judge, it's great to see you. And I know that you and Commissioner Kelly go back many, many years. But I get the feeling the feds would not appreciate him shooting planes out of the sky.
Well, I think you get the right feeling. There's no doubt that if Commissioner Kelly says it, the New York City Police Department has the ability and the training. The question is, do they have the legal authority to do it? And they don't, because the legal authority for protecting the nation's skies and protecting the nation's borders belongs to the federal government. I think that Commissioner Kelly might have been making that statement just to reassure New Yorkers of the extent to which the New York City Police will go in order to keep us safe. But if push came to shove, he would defer to the feds, who would have more knowledge than the New York City Police about the who, what, when, where of what was in the sky. The flip side of this is, though, the New York City Police would have much more knowledge about what's on the ground and what could tolerate the fallout, the physical, literal fallout from such a mid-air assault.
Yeah, but Judge, I mean, this is kind of the same argument Arizona has, right? It's a different subject, clearly, but Arizona's saying that the federal government has failed to secure the borders there. New York is saying the federal government did not protect them on 9/11, and they should have the right to protect themselves.
Very, very appealing argument that the commissioner makes that you just so nicely summarized. The commissioner, however, himself, as you know, is a former federal official. For a number of years, he was the director of the Drug Enforcement Administration. He understands the relationship that exists between the federal government and local and state authorities with respect to safety. At once, it's a relationship in which they work together, and at once it's a bit of a rivalry. But under the Constitution and under the laws, the state and local authorities must defer to the feds. And also under federal policy, assault from the air is not a crime, it's an act of war. This is what the federal government says. And under the Constitution, the federal government wages war against people who would assault us in the skies and not the local police. But I would guess that if the feds keeping us safe in the sky, they're happy Ray Kelly's guys are with them.
Yeah, but let me just, take you one step further in this. You're saying that if Ray Kelly was to someday live up to the ability to shoot down an airplane, that the federal government would go after Ray Kelly, maybe in a physical way.
Yes, the federal government would not allow local police to use violence or to monopolize the airspace. Commissioner Kelly knows that. Like I said, he probably made the statement to create the impression, the true impression, that we are well protected here in New York City. But when push came to shove, if the Fed said don't shoot and Commissioner Kelly said shoot, the guys working for the commissioner would follow the orders of the feds.
Our senior judicial analyst, Fox's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
The Celente scandal continues to grow, and a new revelation is raising some eyebrows. In fact, I'll raise mine now.
Just weeks after...
I think we know who the guest is.
Just weeks after filing for bankruptcy, the solar panel company just listed the California Democratic Party as one of their key creditors. The listing of a political party as a creditor of any company is highly unusual. So what might their ties be to the failed company?
Join us right now is senior judicial analyst, the guy with the distinctive laugh, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
And coming with the distinctive eyebrows.
All right, so Celente put out this list of people who they owe money to, and the Democratic Party of California, when people saw that, they go, wait a minute.
You know, in my years as a lawyer and as a judge, you deal with many, many bankruptcies, and I have never seen a bankruptcy filing where a creditor is a political party. When you file bankruptcy, you're basically saying to the court, we can't pay all of our bills. So you, bankruptcy judge, decide how to divide up what we have and pay what we owe. And when you do that, you have to list everybody to whom you owe money. These people, Celente, filed in a federal bankruptcy court that they owe money to the Democratic Party of California. Now, what service or good could the Democratic Party of California possibly have provided Celente?
They helped them get $500 million.
If they took money for that, then we have a very, very serious problem. This is either a red herring. It was put in there intended to have us talk about it, or it's a typographical error and was never intended to be there.
Why would they do that? Why would they put in a red herring? They got enough problems.
I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they would take $500 million of the dollars from taxpayers and blow it. I don't know why they would continue to take money from the taxpayers with a business plan that couldn't compete with the Chinese. Or there is a serious issue here. Now, look, could the Democratic Party have sold them used furniture? Yeah, they can do that. But I can't think of a way that the Democratic Party could have provided a good or service that it's in the business of providing and charged for it.
Now, these guys, these executives that stood up, the CFO and the CEO, and took the Fifth Amendment, where do they go from here? Could they ever be questioned and forced to answer in a different atmosphere, in a different hearing?
Good question, Brian. The only way they could be compelled to answer is if they were given immunity. So if the House of Representatives was really serious about questioning them, it could give them immunity. The Justice Department doesn't want this to be done because that means they can't be prosecuted.
Interesting.
On the other hand, because they won't answer and they have a right not to answer, it shifts the focus from them to the Department of Energy bureaucrats, whom Congressman Issa can call and who cannot invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Well, we did contact the California Democratic Party. We have not heard a response to our questions about how they could possibly be a creditor, so stand by for that.
Very interesting. We'll follow up on it.
A couple of congressmen are asking the feds to investigate Facebook over accusations that it tracks users even after they log off the site. This centers around a small file, you know, cookies are. It's all about cookies. When you log into the Facebook, the site places the cookies on your computer. You know this, and those cookies send information back to Facebook about other sites that you visit. A Facebook engineer says they use the cookies for security purpose, adding, and I quote, "We could not have used this information for tracking or any other purpose. We fixed the cookies so that they won't include unique information in the future when people log out." With us now, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's the host of Freedom Watch on the Fox Business Network.
Shep.
What do you think?
I think you could make an argument that this is the equivalent of hacking, and it's hacking on an enormous scale. Because
I know that when I go on a site like that, I know they stick a cookie on there, and I know they follow me.
It depends what they do with the cookie, and it depends with whom they share that information, and it depends how they use that information. They're going to argue that this is to provide you with what you want, not to disrupt you. Hackers, they would say, try to disrupt you or interfere with your free flow of information. So how close are they to hacking? Hacking is clearly a federal crime if done by a non-government person. And you can sue Facebook. Imagine a class action with 750 million plaintiffs in the class. That would challenge even Facebook's bank account.
Yeah, that would be a big action. But you know, what Facebook tries to say is it learns what your interests are, and it targets things to which you have interests toward you.
Facebook would also say, you know that we do this, and by your signing up on our program, you are permitting us to do it. So you are waiving, you are giving up your right to the privacy and secrecy of what you do. Others would say, Well, no, we're not. We're getting on Facebook just to communicate with the people with whom we choose to communicate, and it's none of your business where else we go. I mean, people watching us should know we're not talking about them following you on Facebook. We're talking about them following you on other services, non-Facebook services. They have the ability to go there. Do you, when you sign up on Facebook, intend to reveal everything else that you do on the internet? I don't think so.
Well, you know, this centers on the like button. If you like something, you click like. If you don't like something, you click don't like.
Right.
But I figure if I don't want people to know what I like and dislike, I don't have to click the dang button. I mean, I get it in concept, but this just doesn't seem to rise to the level. Maybe I'm wrong.
Here's the free market argument. If you don't like this, if enough people don't like this, they'll form their own Facebook where there are no cookies. And then people can choose a Facebook with cookies or a Facebook without cookies.
Of course, without cookies, it's just going to be like flying blind. I'm going to get a bunch of crap I don't want.
Correct. Correct. So there may be no way out of it. I think there's a tough sell that this is a crime, that this is the equivalent to hacking, which is what these congressmen are suggesting because they want to get their fingers into Facebook. But I also think that Facebook has a public relations issue on its hands that it needs to address.
These lawmakers seem to be doing a lot of stuff with Facebook and all kinds of random stuff when the country's just swirling around the bowl.
Why don't they stop Bank of America from charging you $5 a month to use your own money?
This just came out at wallstreetjournal.com, WSJ.com.
Right.
We knew they were going to start charging fees for your debit account, your debit card. $5 a month just to use your debit card for purchases. $5 a month. If I go buy coffee at the Starbucks for $4.50,
you're going to pay $9.50. Emphasis on debit card. This is your own cash. They are not advancing you credit. This is not an interest payment. This is for the privilege of accessing your own cash. People should stop using them if they're going to do that.
These banks think they run the world. Actually, maybe I guess they do run the world, supposedly.
Well, they do because the federal government will bail them out whenever they make a bad loan.
Well, we'll see. If everybody thought that, Bank of America's stock would be better than the 30 cents that it is, or whatever.
Well, because the federal government has to print the money with which to bail them out.
All right, Judge.
Washington is gridlocked, but now one of President Obama's former budget advisors has got an idea to fix it by scaling back democracy. Huh? Peter Orszag, a former budget director, wrote recently, quote, "To solve the serious problems facing our nation, we need to minimize the harm from legislative inertia by relying more on automatic policies and depoliticized commissions for certain policy decisions. In other words, radical as it sounds, we need to counter the gridlock of our political institutions by making them a little less democratic." All right. Judge Andrew Napolitano is ready to jump through the television.
Almost.
We need less democracy, not more, he says.
I mean, basically what he's suggesting, and these are his suggestions. Who knows if the president likes these? If the president comes out for something like this, he can absolutely kiss away his chance at re-election. But what Orszag is proposing is a sort of Northern European-style social democracy in which bureaucrats and commissions of people rule the government, and there's nothing that the elected population can do about it. For example, he would have commissions do things that Congress couldn't undo. He would have taxes automatically go up and spending automatically increase when unemployment went up. Essentially, he's taking the free choices away from our representatives and putting them in the hands of rules that prior Congresses wrote and sort of making them the subject of perfect storms. This would not be a democracy as we have known it.
Well, you know, democracy is so inconvenient sometimes when there's an opposing party that is stopping you from doing stuff, and clearly this is reflective of what the Obama administration would like to do. They'd like to get more stuff done, but those darn Republicans are standing in their way.
Look, they believe that they are the best and the brightest, and they would like to have the best and the brightest run the country no matter what the people want. The essence of democracy is that the people get to choose, even if that means it's slow, even if that means it's tedious, even if that means we make mistakes. The government is the product of our free choices. That's not what these people want.
Judge, if this particular brand of government were installed today, they could just say, you know what, we need to raise taxes. And they'd raise taxes.
And taxes would go up, and the decision would be made by 5 nameless, faceless people, and there's nothing that Congress could do about it. Look, this isn't going to happen. It would require serious amendments to the Constitution and a sea change in our thinking. But I think there are people around who would like to see this happen.
But first, the lead story tonight, 24-year-old Amanda Knox free this evening. An Italian appeals court overturned her murder conviction. Ms. Knox from Washington State had been sentenced to 26 years in the death of a British exchange student in Perugia, Italy. She had been incarcerated for nearly 4 years and gained worldwide attention. With us now, Fox News Chief Judicial Analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano has been closely following the case. For those who have not been closely following it, let's pick it up. There was a gruesome crime.
Right.
This woman, this British woman, had her throat cut.
Right.
Pick it up from there.
Right. And Amanda Knox was charged with the crime. The victim is her roommate. The co-defendant is Amanda Knox's boyfriend. She points to a bartender in a bar who had nothing to do with it. She basically, in the 56th hour of 56 hours of interrogation, tells the police, well, if it happened, here's how it happened, and here was my involvement.
All right.
On the basis of that, she's convicted.
Let's just stop now. So there was a situation where a British exchange student, who is Miss Knox's roommate, was involved in some kind of party?
Yes, a party that the government says was a sex party and was fueled by drugs.
Okay, so she was killed. Why?
The government didn't offer a
no motive.
Correct.
Just wound up with her throat cut.
The government offered bloody footprints and DNA evidence, which was discounted by some of the government's own experts.
You're getting ahead of yourself now. So the woman gets her throat cut after a party in the house.
Yes.
Miss Knox is there with a boyfriend. There were some other people there, right?
Yes.
Who?
Yes. Also present is Miss Knox's boss, the guy that owns the bar, and another semi-boyfriend who turns out to be a drug dealer from Africa, sort of floating his way through northern Italy.
Who was convicted for slitting the woman's throat?
Amanda Knox and her boyfriend, Raffaella Solicito, were convicted of slitting her throat.
So the other two weren't convicted of a physical assault against the woman?
One of the other ones was convicted of assisting in the murder, and he was sentenced to 16 years in jail.
The Italian government couldn't say who the knife wielder was with any certainty?
That's correct.
Okay. So then she gets sentenced to 26. She's put in jail, and the appeal process begins, which culminates today with the Italian government saying what?
The appeals process is unlike anything we have here, Bill. It is basically a second trial before another judge and another jury in which the government must prove its case again. At the end of this second trial, she's found not guilty of murder. She's found not guilty of rape. She's found not guilty of lying to the police. She's only found guilty of slandering the police, for which she's sentenced to time served.
Okay.
And as we speak, she's being set free.
How about the boyfriend? He gets off too?
Yes.
All right. So they're both then found not guilty of killing this woman who had her throat cut, but they don't know who cut her throat.
It's like any criminal case where the government says this defendant did it and the jury says we don't believe you. We never find out who did it.
All right. So from what I understand, and again, I didn't follow the case closely, and I'm sure some of you did not either, the DNA evidence that was introduced in the initial conviction was shaky.
Yes, it would never have been introduced in an American courtroom because the standards for introducing it, the methods that have to be demonstrated to the judge's satisfaction, are not standards that exist in Italy.
What was the most compelling piece of evidence against Amanda Knox that put the knife in her hand or whatever that you saw?
Her own words. After 56 hours of interrogation, the cops said to her, tell us a hypothetical about how it might have happened.
Yeah, but 56 hours, I mean, this woman could have been delirious at that point.
That's the point.
Did she have an attorney with her?
No, she didn't have an attorney with her.
No attorney, could have been delirious.
Of course, she's not entitled to one under Italian law. And again, in an American system, what someone said after staying awake for 56 hours of badgering by the police wouldn't be admitted.
She wasn't allowed to sleep?
No, this is 56 continuous hours.
That's ridiculous.
That's the evidence that was used against her.
I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. But you put the whole puzzle together. You had to let her go.
You put the whole puzzle together. She was probably there, and she probably knew what happened. But the government could not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and so the outcome is a just one. It's better that a guilty person goes free than someone that the government convicts only on emotion is punished.
After the fact, did Amanda Knox offer any kind of explanation for her behavior that evening?
No, but she was given the opportunity to address the court without being cross-examined by the prosecutor, also unheard of in our system. And all she said was, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, I don't know who did it, don't punish me for something I didn't do. And the jurors accepted that argument.
She didn't say I wasn't in the room or anything like that? Because the footprints that you mentioned earlier, the bloody footprints, did match that she was in proximity to this woman's body.
That is damning evidence against her, and tonight is unexplained.
Okay, so wrapping this whole thing up, there wasn't enough, in your opinion, to keep the woman in jail for 26 years, but we don't know who killed this British woman, and Knox, in your opinion, was there and does know what happened.
but there wasn't enough evidence to convict
But
her.
you believe that she does know what happened?
Yes, I do. I believe she knows what happened because of the involvement of the boyfriend and her former boss who owned the bar, who was convicted.
So tonight, we shouldn't be happy about anything.
Well, we should be happy that no one was convicted without adequate evidence, but we don't know what the outcome.
And this
we don't
poor
know what
woman
happened.
is dead with her throat cut. And Amanda Knox, I believe that what you believe, knows what happened. All right, Judge, thanks very much. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the Fox Business Channel.